Welcome to Van Life with Steve, and thank you so very much for joining me for a visit to Arches National Park, located in eastern Utah, just north of Moab, Utah. Let's go ahead and get to the summary. Arches was first established as a national monument in 1929 by President Herbert Hoover, and it was elevated to national park status in 1972 by President Richard Nixon. It is a busy park. It sees 1.5 million annual visitors, and you have probably seen many times on the news where the entrances get backed up for hours. As a result, they do have a reservation system in place from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. from April 1st to October 31st. However, like with all of the national parks I visit, I did not make a reservation, and you just have to get in there before the reservation period starts. When I arrived at 5:30, they did have rangers out checking passes. So Arches is in a desert. It is very hot in the summertime, and that's why I was surprised it was so busy in the summertime, because temperatures routinely exceed 100 degrees. As a Floridian, I take a lot of pride in being able to handle the heat, so the heat was not a problem to me, but it's something you need to be aware of. The more thing to me was just to kind of stay out of the sun. You're not going to get any cell service within the park or within the surrounding area if you stray too far from the road. The boondocking, there's a lot of good boondocking, but you do have to drive a little ways out of the way from the park to get to it. I actually overnighted at a rest stop off I-70, which is about 45 minutes away from the park. I would suggest a 2 or 3 day itinerary to see the entire park, and so you can get some good sunrise and sunset photos. I found that during sunset the park does get really crowded. My recommendation for Arches is, yes, you should visit. I don't necessarily think it's a destination park. It's a little overhyped in my opinion. However, the park would be great to visit as part of a trip to the greater Moab area, or if you're touring all of the Mighty Five parks through Utah, or completing the Grand Circle. It's a good park, but I don't think you would travel to it just to visit, but I did overall enjoy my visit. Okay, as we head into the park, we're going to get things started right away with what I would say is the signature icon of Arches National Park, which is Delicate Arch, which is a 52-foot tall sandstone arch here. It's pretty cool. I was really surprised at the number of people. I was here on a Thursday in September, and I estimated there was about 50 people here for sunrise. Now, I actually think Delicate Arch is probably best photographed at sunset, and what I found out is most of the reason why people were here, because actually the parking lot wasn't it was only about half full, was that they wanted to avoid the temperature during the, I think it's 3 miles round trip hike out to the arch. You do have to kind of hike up some steep sort of rock, but I didn't really find the hike to be all that strenuous or anything. And if you don't want to make the hike, they do have the upper and lower viewpoints where you can also see the arch. I believe this is the lower arch viewpoint. I don't think I took any video when I hiked to the upper viewpoint, so this is another side of the arch. And there are various nicknames for the arch, such as chaps or bloomers, that refer to a pair of pants. And once you kind of hear that, you kind of can't unsee it, can you? It does look like a pair of pants, but that's an icon of the entire state of Utah and does appear on the state license plate. Around the arch, these sandstone cliffs I thought were very striking in and of themselves. Now, leaving Delicate Arch, it was time to head a little bit north to an area they call the Devil's Playground, which has a large collection of arches. First we have Tunnel Arch, and I forget the name of the smaller arch that's to the upper left of it. I believe this arch is Pine Tree Arch, also a pretty cool arch. Now we'll continue forward to Landscape Arch, which is the longest arch in the world outside of China. So China has the longest 3 or 4 arches, but they're in very remote locations, and Landscape Arch is the longest arch outside of the country of China. And you can see the boulders there. You used to be able to go and sit under the arch. However, there was a rock collapse, and so they've blocked off that area now. And at this point, this is where the reinforced trail ends, and if you continue past that, it's going to be loose sand. And that would be kind of my complaint about arches, is I wish they would, at this trail, and then there'll be another trail to Skyline Arch and some others, really wish they would have all the trails be reinforced so you're not walking through loose sand. I got up pretty early and decided to take a nap, and I was very comfortable in 100-degree temperatures in my van with the Volta system and the air conditioning. So after getting a nap, I made it over to Skyline Arch there. And then I drove down to what is my favorite arch in the entire park, which is Sand Dune Arch. And I'll give you a couple seconds to guess as to why this is my favorite arch in the park. Okay, if you guessed it's in the shade, you're right. So now if you've been to arches, let me know in the comments below which was your favorite arch. And if I end up missing one that you've been to, please let me know so the next time I go to arches, I know to make sure to check it out. Thank you so much. So along this trail, again, I braved the loose sand, made it up to Broken Arch, which I gather some rock fell from or something like that. And it was kind of interesting, although this trail was a little bit longer than I planned for. And one of my, I guess, other tips for arches is, I think in the past I've mentioned that I don't really like to wear a lot of sunscreen because you got to use a little bit more water to when you bathe in the van. So I actually bring an umbrella to keep the sun off me, and I manage the heat just fine just using an umbrella. Here we're at the Fiery Furnace, which looks like something out of a Dr. Seuss book. You can go canyoneering or hiking into the Fiery Furnace. I believe there's a permit process for that, and that's not my kind of thing, so I just took a quick look. Opposite the Fiery Furnace is the Salt Valley overlook with the LaSalle Mountains there in the background. This entire landscape was definitely otherworldly for sure. So there's another look at the fiery furnace, and then we'll take a closer look at the LaSalle Mountains. Now from there I headed over to the window section of the park. You can see the north and south window there as we drive up, and there's also a double arch, which is pretty cool. Here's the north window. And here we have turret arch. Now I had to think back as to why I didn't get my picture of turret arch through one of the windows, and the reason is because there were just a lot of people around the window arches, and this is my first kind of realization that the reason why visitation to the national parks has increased so much is people just want their social media pictures. And I watched a husband and wife basically sort of neglect their kids so they could plan their sunset picture, and I watched them do that for like 45 minutes, and then they just stayed there the entire time. It was weird. Here's double arch, and this is really interesting formation here, and you can see the people climbing up there. I guess that's technically not climbing on the arch. You're not supposed to climb on any of the arches in the park, but what I really found here as we get to sunset is I guess a lot of people come into the park for sunset and they get to their spots and they sit there, so I had to really work to find angles where there weren't a lot of people. We're going to end things at the park with Balanced Rock here. That's a popular sunset spot, and very interesting, a little bit cooler than the Balanced Rock at Garden of the Gods. Garden of the Gods is still cool too. But with that, we're going to head on out of Arches and head on to the next adventure. I really enjoyed this park, but again, I think it's best visited in combination with visiting other parks in Utah or as part of the Grand Circle through Utah, Colorado, and Arizona. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks and take care. Bye.